Seems that we are live. Hello, chat. We got some interesting news today that we're going to discuss before the Archcast. So today's stream is going to only be 50 minutes because the last 10, I'm going to go prepare for the Archcast, which I believe starts 1 hour earlier. Like I'm not really sure because last week Arch did start it earlier, so I just need to be in time if that happens. But anyway, right? So there have been a lot of interesting developments on the internet. I don't know which one to start with because both are very interesting. So a white lady managed to win the beauty competition. Let me check. I think in Zimbabwe. I need to make sure. Hold on. I'll verify. I'll trust and verify it in a bit. Right, so my ancestors rolling in their graves. White woman wins 2023 Universe Zimbabwe over melanated candidates. My god, I don't think that anyone can have more disparaging epithets for human beings than the left. If you happen to read like some academic papers by anti-racists, the way that they refer to black people is more abhorrent than any KKK member ever did. Like, for example, they call black bodies. Like, imagine that, right? So they don't say, like, black people or African Americans or... No, black bodies. Like, this is the academic term for them to describe, like, black people. And it's like... It's so dehumanizing. Like, I imagine just, like, naked people stacked on top of each other. Like, from that metaphor, from that epithet. Like... I wouldn't like to be considered it's like white bodies. It's like Jesus Christ. So it is like a big cringe. But you notice it when they also write articles like this. Like for example, this is on Yahoo News. My ancestors rolling in their graves. First of all, like misspelling as well. Like man, like left-leaning people like literally do not have any sort of attachment towards correctitude, towards quality. I mean, again, I write for Lotus Eaters, right? I write for Sargon's newspaper. And I have an editor there. Like, if I make the mistake, like first of all, I'm expected not to make grammatical errors, right? And even though, like, I'm Romanian, English is not my main language, I do my best. But, like, once in a while it happens, you know what? The editor catches it. Like, it's fucking impossible. I do not know, like, how can you have, like, a misspelling in the title? I have misspelling in the titles in my YouTube videos, I do admit. But that rarely happens, and it's usually due to the fact that I'm just one guy. But, like, when you're writing for a publication, and you're putting it on Yahoo Entertainment, like, there are so many people down the line that can fact-check and make sure that you're not making spelling errors. But anyway, so my ancestors rolling in their graves. White woman wins 2023 Miss Universe Zimbabwe over melanated candidates. Like, why can't you just say, like, black candidates? Like, why would you say melanated? It is, like, so for... Like, I'm probably sure that the reason they say this is that they do not want to use the word black for some reason. Which, okay, fine. But, like, why would you use something that's not what normal people use day to day? You know? Now, the thing that I find interesting is that we have like a couple of cases that are happening in Europe. So there has also been like a black lady which won a beauty competition in a country that was predominantly white. And of course, if anyone complained, you are being called racist. The reason people complain is that unironically, so I don't know like what country it was. I think it was Norway or something. But like unironically, like she wasn't that good looking for a beauty competition. Like no, like, the runner-up basically was far more gorgeous, right? And anyone could see that. And if people said it's like, well, the second place is who should have won. Like no one is saying that she shouldn't have competed or anything. They're saying like, okay, well, the second place is who should have won. They're livid. They're like, oh, so you're racist, you're blah blah blah, as if you know, like having preferences that are entirely subjective, which it comes to beauty. Is now what racism is, right? Like, it's not about, like, preventing people from getting a job or being aggressive to someone just because of their race. No. It's like, if you do not think that that particular person should have won that beauty competition, then you are racist. Complete horseshit, right? But, like, this is the argumentation that we have in modern day, so what can you do about it? Now, the reason that I find it interesting is that when it's happening in reverse, so like in Zimbabwe, we have this lady which won. People are freaking out. No one is calling them racists, by the way. Like, this is perfectly natural, apparently. So like, what I understand is that white women are allowed to compete, but it's like a token. Like you're not allowed to win, right? See, like, the thing is, like, I understand, like, in Norway, if you have, like, a black lady that's competing and she wins, but she wins because, like, literally she's more gorgeous than the other people that are competing, then yeah, okay, fine. But, like, this is not the case, right? Like what they are suggesting is that under no circumstance a woman that's white should ever win, right? Like, they're not arguing that the second person, the runner-up, should have won. That's not what they're saying here. They are literally saying that she shouldn't have won because she's white and the ancestors are rolling in their graves. I'm pretty sure that the ancestors liked white women as well. You know, I just want to point that out. Like some of the ancestors, right? Not all of them, but some of them may have liked her as well because, again, like when it comes to sexual attraction, you can't use ideology. It's just completely subjective. Like, you either like something or you don't. There's like, you can't help it. You can't help, like, not like the people you do like, and you can't help like the people you don't like. It is what it is, right? So, like, when you're making, like, these vindictive claims, it's like, oh, you literally are the racist. Like, you literally are the racist when you say like this. Like, the only reason, like, if this lady was black and she won, you would have had no problem with it. The thing in Norway is that if that lady was white and she would have won, people would still have problem with it because, like, legitimately, she wasn't that good looking. And it's a beauty competition. This lady is actually kind of cool, like Prudence. Prudence and Audrey doesn't look that bad. You know, like, if you're, again, if you were to make the claim that you believe Prudence should have won, or you make the claim that you believe Audrey should have won, you're not a racist. But if your claim is like, oh my gosh, she won and she's white, then you are a racist. But, like, again, like, it's not like these people care. It's not like, you know, like, this type of statement is so socially acceptable, it gets into Yahoo Entertainment, right? So, it's not like, but it's like a thing where, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, it's one of those things, it's like, must you though? Must you? Isn't it tiresome? Isn't it boring? Like, aren't your arguments just cringe? So after her win, she quoted on Instagram, "I have given this crown for our beautiful country, to love and to serve our people, to represent Zimbabwe internationally, and to show the world the uniqueness of Zimbabwe and Zimbabweans." Holy fucking shit. Man, I wish that American beauty competitions would say stuff like this. You know, like, usually they pledge allegiance to the different leftist flag. Like, there was a transgender woman who won a beauty competition, and she didn't have these nice things to say about her country, which is why I don't even know which country she was from. But it was like a transgender woman, and she was like, oh, well, this is a very important step for, like, trans people everywhere, and, like, trans this, trans that, me. And I'm thinking, like, alright, well, I generally, like, do not know what country she's from, but I do happen to know what this lady country is from. She's from Zimbabwe, and she seems to be proud of it. So, unironically, like, I would want more people like this rather than less. She hopes to be an example of grace and inspiration from the youth, proving that together we are strong and anything in life is possible. But Brooke Jackson, apparently, she doesn't believe that diversity is her strength. And apparently, she has not been shown much grace from outraged natives who believes a black woman should have been crowned. The country boasts a population of more than 14 million, with non-black people making roughly 2%. Like, this is literally discrimination based on a minority. Like, But again, it's fine. It's fine, right? I don't know why the media is happy with it. This apparently is tragic, right? Like Lily here from Twitter is saying that this is tragic. All those beautiful melanated women, and you're telling me that European women want a contest from black people. Well, what's even more funny and hilarious is that the judges were also black, right? Like, I just want to point that out. If we're playing the identity politics game, it's a competition ran by black people with a jury of black people, which decided that this woman is the most beautiful, right? So it is what it is. Disapproval of the model's victory prompted her to deactivate comments on her victory post. However, comments remain active elsewhere on her Instagram, such as the photo of her dressed in a garb showcasing Zimbabwean artists. Yeah. Now, what's also interesting is that you see leftists on Twitter talking about this issue, And their mind is short-circuiting, right? Because on one hand, they will say that, like there was actually this interesting conversation which appeared on Japanese TV. And there was this guy in Japan, which had British parents who moved in Japan, and he was born and raised in Japan. So, like, the guy speaks fluent Japanese. He follows Japanese customs, and he loves Japan as a country, and he follows Japanese culture. And the question was, is he Japanese, right? Now, national, like, the left will say that because of the nationality, right? Because, like, he was born there, and because he's got Japanese citizenship, that he is Japanese. But other people can point out that, no, because, like, to be Japanese, you need to have the ethnicity. So, like, a lot of leftists were like, really confused and bewildered by this, which I don't know why, because, like, if you have a Japanese American, like, a Japanese person is grown and raised in America, like, yeah, he's American, right? Like, no one is going to say, well, no, like, actually, there's, like, these ethnicities that you have to have. No, right? My take on this is that a nation is more than just, like, a space where economic transactions happen. So I don't think, like, a nation is like a corporation, just a plot of land. You know, everyone is there, and you automatically, like, are part of it just because you have the piece of paper. I do think, like, there is obviously a distinction between an ethnicity and a nationality, but what I do think is that a nation is also a set of cultures, morals, traditions, and beliefs. And if you go into a place and you adhere to those moral traditions, cultures, and beliefs, regardless of your ethnicity, people are going to cherish you, right? So, like, a lot of Japanese people that were seeing this English guy on TV speaking perfect Japanese and following their customs, were cherishing him. And this is due to the fact that if you look at human history, and you look at, like, any point in history, you will notice that even a mercenary, right? Like, someone that's not from that country, like a mercenary that fights for a foreign king, let's say, he's going to be more appreciated by the people of that country than a soldier that deserts, or a soldier from that country that collaborates with the enemy, right? Like, I'm using this extreme example so that people can understand what I'm talking about. But, like, basically, even throughout history, like, people would value someone that's not ethnically rooted in that place, but, like, has the cultures and traditions of that place. That another person that is rooted in that place, but is, like, burning the flag of the country, disrespecting the laws of the land, being a general revolutionary and nuisance, right? Like, I mean, this is true, like, objectively true. I know that there are some ideologues that prefer that this isn't the case, but unfortunately it is. Like, if you study history, you'll notice that this is, right? So, like, when you're talking about this lady, which is proud to be Zimbabwean, and, you know, like, she wants to represent her country and whatnot, I genuinely think that the sentiment within Zimbabwe is probably more in favor of her than left-leaning people that are literally, like, just trashing their country and having nothing but bad thing to say about Zimbabwean culture. Hi V, your day is well. Remember who's the dad. Dude, if you start with who's your daddy, I'm going to start cringing. Romanian language question. Does a panic card have to be someone who tries to spread fear, or it just someone that panics easily? Alright, so panic card refers to, I guess, like, a negative connotation of a person that was acting in a bad way during COVID, right? So, like, we're talking about the person that would put 5 masks on, would wear gloves in public, would talk nothing but fear-mongering, like he would constantly parrot mainstream media talking points, and he would, like, just be panicking to the extreme and trying to get people around him to panic as well. So that is, like, what we call the panic card. Now, it's not someone that panics easily. It's a specific connotation. It's basically like a person that's hooked to the television and will parrot all the talking points, and if the media tells him to be afraid, he will not only be afraid, but he will try to convince the people around him to be scared as well. So that is what a panic card is. This is sad because from the left's logic, minorities are to be uplifted and represented to furthering the diversity. But again, it showed that it's not about representation, it's about power grabbing. Yes, this is absolutely correct. Like, I'm going to talk about the second issue that we have planned for today, which is the brand of Russell. And I actually had, like, a conversation with a leftist who what pointed out that firms are pulling ads from Rumble platform. He was like, oh, well, this is free speech, right? Like, them pulling their ads is free speech. So I made the post, and I said the following. Considering that this is happening after the British government has sent a letter to those social media companies, and that we saw in the Twitter files that the government colludes with corporations to do exactly what we see, we can safely say that the only reason that you are cheering this on is because you're a fascist. And I don't mean this as an insult, but in the actual political term of what fascism represents. You are happy to see that corporations work hand in hand with the government to squash political dissent. The fact that you think that such a system can't be weaponized against things that interest you or causes that you will support in the future shows how naive you are. Take into account that the censorship apparatus in Benito Mussolini's Italy, Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union, China, or any other authoritarian regime was never used to serve the good of the people, but only to push the interests of those in power. When you support such a censorship apparatus, you just want that the people in power to never be able to be held accountable for the things that they do, for the legislation that they pass, or for the economic downturn that they cause. The fact that you think that what's happening in the UK is going to be any different shows that you have a lack of understanding in history. Right, so immediately the person is like, too long, didn't read, la 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 la. Right, so basically, you got these individuals on Twitter, and like one interesting thing that I noticed about them, I'm not saying that they're bots or anything, but it's just like very bizarre. If you look at it, it's almost like every single time, like when you see a leftist, which is going to spew the same talking points, ignore your rebuttals, the moment you disagree with them, they'll block or whatever. I want you to do the following experiment and see if I'm right or not. When you go onto their Twitter timeline, you will see that the number of people that they follow and the number of followers that they have are incredibly similar. So like in this case, the guy has 652 following and 700 followers. Like just do this exercise, right? Like look at other people. You notice that usually the following and the followers count is very different. But for some fucking reason, and again, like this is a trend that these are also people that have like a cartoon avatar in their bio or something like that. I don't know why it is, but like the number of following versus followers is almost identical, and usually their accounts are created years back, and they don't justify the fact that they have amassed such a few followership, right? So like in this case, the guy had his account made in 2017, and he only has like 700 followers. Like there's no fucking way. Like if you actually like tweet as much as this guy does, you should have like more followers. Now still, I do not know why this is. I genuinely like do not know. I'll probably understand it one day. But I noticed that it's so frequent that it has to be called out. Hi V, hope you're well. Is the Archcast on tonight? You were missed last week. Well, luckily I managed to dodge the guy with the weird guns. Like for those of you who don't know, there's like a guy on the Archcast, and he always super chats and asks me like, what do you think about the pothole gun, or what do you think about this gun? And you're looking at it and it's like some esoteric weapons that even Americans probably don't know about them. But like last time it was like a revolver with a bayonet. So it was like, no, sorry, it was a revolver which had like a knuckle duster as a holder. It had a little knife as a bayonet, and it also fired bullets. It looked like an incredibly impractical weapon. He also asked me about a gun which apparently was banned. It looked like a fucking cannon. I forgot the name of it, but like that gun was like so fucking cool. It was taller than a guy. Like it looked like a shotgun, but was like twice the size of a human being. And apparently the reason it was banned is that it was too effective. It was used to hunt. But it would fire like such a huge number of bullets that it would literally kill every single bird. So like if you went hunting, and you know like you got like your ducklings in the water, and they fly away. Like the moment you would fire that gun, the punt gun. Let me hold on. Let me look, okay? Because I want to show it on screen because I know that we have a couple of Amerikanskis who. All right, so the punt gun. Right, this is. It looks like a fucking cannon. I don't know if it's actually still legal today. Oh, apparently, like there are still some guns that are available today. Look at this shit, chat. Look at this shit. Holy fucking Christ! Like, look, this guy turned his canoe into a warship with this. Right, so apparently, like, you're not supposed to fire it while standing, right? You're supposed to mount it on a boat, and you're supposed to go hunting with it. Like, this is legitimately for bird hunting. And it was so effective, like, as you can see the birds here, like, when the gun fired, it would just eradicate all of the birds. So it was so effective that it actually was causing birds to become endangered, so they had to ban it. Because it was to, and not only that, it's like, I wonder, like, if the birds were edible after you did this shit. Because, like, they would be eviscerated by this thing. I mean, if you're fighting in close quarters, I'm willing to bet that none of the birds, like, even have anything remaining. It's kind of like if you fire an AK-47 at a sparrow. Like, the sparrow just stops existing. So, yeah. There's many weird guns that people ask me about them. That's average size? Dude, come on, like, you can't fire it as a person. Speaking of which, like, there are those guns that I noticed, it's called an anti-tank rifle. And the reason for the gun is to manage to penetrate the the hull of a tank, right? Now, you can't really fire them from like the hip. You gotta sit on the ground in order to fight it. But like there is a guy which was so strong he actually fired one and it looks ridiculous as fuck. Like but anyway, right. There's no kill like overkill. Look at the elephant gun. No, I know the elephant gun. Did my battery run out? No, it's fine. Yeah, so basically it's a thing that I'm afraid of to go at the Archcast, because every single day I'm asked about like a new bizarre weapon. It's like, hey V, what do you think of the punt gun? And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then when you look at it, it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Do you think like the government wants people to have the punt gun? They'll be like, but why do you need the punt gun? You can't hire from the hip skill issue. Yeah, it was like one of those, like, I think it's called a 50 cal or something like that. I don't know if that's an anti-tank weapon. But it was like it had like a ginormous endpoint. And like seeing a guy just sitting around and fighting that from the hip was just like, what the fuck are we looking at, chat? Anyway, right, so we talked about the Zimbabweans. Did you know that Johnny Somali got arrested? And not only did Johnny Somali got arrested, apparently the Japanese government is going to pass laws against live streamers. Now, if you're not familiar with who Johnny Somali is, he is a very interesting gentleman. He found out that there is a niche in Japan. Apparently, people are too law-abiding, right? So, like, there was a hole in the market. I really believe in capitalism. I generally believe in the supply and demand effect. So basically, what happened with Johnny Somali is that he noticed that there is a huge demand for streamers performing pranks and obnoxious behavior in public, right? Like, there are people willing to pay money for that. I don't think like many of them were Japanese though. I think like his targeted audience was overseas. So basically he was exploiting his criminal enterprises overseas. Now the reason I say it's criminal because in Japan you're not allowed to film people in public. They have like very strong privacy laws, which I noticed that a lot of Americans hate, but I would tell you that it fixes cancel culture almost overnight. Like, how many videos did you not see on TikTok with a woman going, it's like, oh my god, he was undressing me with his eyes while I was at the gym, and then the guy gets fired. Or, you know, like, they're doxing him and shit. And then you find out that he actually didn't do nothing. Or, you know, like, things where, oh, like, look at this lady, she's behaving racist. Like, she's stealing the bike. You know, this nurse is stealing the bike from this black man. And then when people actually look at it and they investigate, turns out that that wasn't the case, right? So, you got, like, many stuff like this happening in the West. And all of it would go away if you had, like, the same privacy law where you're not allowed to film people in private. But anyway, in Japan, it is already illegal. You're not allowed to film people in private. Sorry, they're not allowed to film people in public without their consent. And because of this, like due to this, I guess, the streamer got into a lot of trouble because the laws in Japan, like, kind of like every single society, like, you do have some laws, but they don't always apply them, you know? Like, sometimes the cop looks the other way. Like, for example, here in Romania, we had this law that during the pandemic you were supposed to wear a mask. But towards the end of the pandemic, many police officers were looking the other way. They were pretending that they're not seeing. You know, it's kind of like that, right? But as long as you don't fucking push it, as long as you're not, like, making a big deal, like, if you're going on the street and you're encouraging people not to wear masks, then yeah, you're going to be arrested. But basically, you know, like, this guy goes in and goes to Japanese people and say, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, we do it again, Hiroshima. Like, that's what he was saying. And Americans don't understand just how offensive that is in Japan. It's kind of like making fun of 9/11, but, like, Japan is a culture that respects the ancestors, right? Like, they're rooted in tradition, and they really respect the ancestors. Now, many of their ancestors, some of which were innocent, like we're talking about babies, elderly people, right? Non-combatants, they perished within the nuclear flames, right? So, making fun of that, not really cool, I gotta say. Again, it's kind of like making fun of 9/11 in the United States, but it's like even worse in Japan. Like, you're going to get more people upset. So, like, he's going out of his way in order to make fun of Japanese people. Now he doesn't even speak Japanese, I don't think. Like the only words that he knows is like Fukushima, Nagasaki, and he goes around in public doing this. So eventually he gets arrested. And he's looking, I think, at 3 years in prison. They want to arrest him for trespassing. It's also because he disrespected Miyuko-chan. Now, Miyuko-chan is a famous Japanese Twitch streamer, and because of Twitch's rules that are oozing with mental retardation, you're not allowed to show a person that was banned on Twitch. And because Johnny Somali is banned on Twitch, like, she was live streaming on the streets, and he goes in front of her and says, well, get banned, bitch, get banned. And he does this because, again, like, he knows that he's going to get her into trouble, and his followers will like it. But anyway, right, so he ends up in prison, faces 3 years now, and the Japanese are planning to change the laws regarding live streaming. Meaning that all the other people who enjoy real life streamers or people who do real life streaming are going to be affected by his stupidity. I do think that the laws are going to ban average people from live streaming, and it's going to only allow the mainstream media and authoritative sources to live stream in Japan. Which I guess it's kind of sad if you're into real life live streaming. Personally, I wish we had this in our country as well, because I don't want to go onto the street and be harassed by a chuckle fuck who makes an easy buck by live streaming a prank that he does towards me. You know, like, I get the incentive that is there. Like, there are some people that incentivize others in order to go out in public and behave like assholes. And from their perspective, it's funny. But I genuinely, like, do not want to be the guy which is on the receiving end of a prank from, like, some random streamer. I do think that should be illegal, yes. It's disturbing of the public peace. At least that. You know, like, disturbing public order. Unfortunately, yes, it does target, like, people who just, you know, like, they want to do, like, a live stream of their tourist event, right? So, like, they're going out there. Though, I think, like, you can still record videos and upload them later. You're just not allowed to do it live. You can't be an ancestor if you die as a baby? I don't know. Is that a thing, though? Like, technically, you came before. Because, like, when you say ancestors, it doesn't actually mean, like, the English definition of, like, you have to have kids, right? So you're, like, the ancestor or someone. I think it's, like, used as the previous generation type of thing, right? So, like, if a 14-year-old girl dies in the nuclear fire, and she didn't have a son, but, like, she is related to you somehow, she's still your ancestor. I think, like, that's the way they view it. I may be wrong. Like, please, someone that knows better, correct me. But I think, like, that's how it works, right? So like, for example, if my aunt, if she passed away and didn't have kids, she is still my ancestor because, like, she's from the previous generation. She's my mother's sister. And because of that, it's still, like, she still watches over my family. I may be wrong with this, like, please correct me, but, I'm pretty sure that this is how it works. Wait until the AK guy gets a working AK-50. I'd carry that thing around. Jesus, who's the AK guy? I do not know what you are referring to. Do you think all the women in Mortal Kombat 1 are ugly? How do you feel about Kitana, Sindel, and Li Mei? It's hard to gauge how literally to take you into those videos. It's not necessarily that they're ugly. There's two problems, right? So you notice that all of them are over the age of 35. For some reason, again, whatever. The problem is the hips. Like, those women are made genderly ambiguous on purpose. They look masculine. They have broad shoulders, strong jawlines. I do think that Nitara looks a little bit better. Kitana and Melina, they're kind of hit or miss. They're not, like, really ugly. But again, it's the hips. They lack feminine features. They lack sensuality. If you want to see, like, when they actually did proper women, and like, okay, so, if you want to see a woman that NetherRealm did, which is, like, in between, right? Like, she's not very ugly, but she's not hypersexualized either. Cassie Cage, the first version, by the way, right? So, like, when they made Cassie Cage, this one, like, she oozes femininity. Right now, she's still dressed all the way up. She's got, like, some costumes. Like, I guess, like, oh, fucking hell. She's got, like, some costumes where, she shows more skin, and obviously, like, people wanted to buy those costumes. But, like, in the original, right, like, this is, like, a good character design. Like, she looks like a woman. She's got moments of sensuality, right? She doesn't ooze toxic masculinity. She doesn't have, like, a strong, male jawline. She doesn't have, like, really broad shoulders. The hips are fine, right? And that's my point. It's not necessarily like they're not sexy or beautiful or whatever. It's more the fact that they have masculine features. And you notice that this is happening with, like, the masculine features since the next installment, right? So, like, when they started making Mortal Kombat 11, you look at Cassie, and there are pictures of her. She literally looks like Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 2. Like, it's very difficult to see her. I mean, okay, look. Notice the fan art versus the actual art, right? So, like, the in-game art, right? It makes her look really bizarre and weird. But the other art, the fan art, still has her as female. Like, look here. Like, this is actual, you know, like a fan art, fan animation. This is from the previous version. But when you look at this, she had an even worse one in the trailer. They had to retcon her a little bit because people were literally complaining. Like, they managed to put a picture of Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil 2 next to her. And like, literally, people couldn't tell that this is a female character. Compared to this, like, this is how she looked like, right? And this is, like, again, this is her, I believe, motion capture actress. Like, this is how the real woman looks, right? She looks more like this. But anyway, it is what it is. My point is, okay, the reason that I care so much about how women look in media, right? It's not necessarily because, like, a lot of people say, oh, you just want to come to female characters. No, that's not the point, right? Because I still play games that have beautiful female characters. Like, I still care about the aesthetics, and I have my games that I can play. I'm making my own video game. I don't fucking care about, like, what the culture is. The problem that I have is that they are trying to portray the message that if you want to see beautiful female characters in video games, there is something wrong with you, right? So if you want to see beautiful men, if you want to see, like, Conan the Barbarian that has a loincloth, that's fine. If you want to see furries, that's fine. If you want to see gore over the top, that's fine. But the moment you just want to see a sexy female character, you're a porn-obsessed freak. That's why how they frame it on Twitter, right? They are trying to demoralize young men. Because every single young man, when he manages to get around the age of 16, I think, like, that was for a little bit even more earlier for me, right? You start to, like, explore your sexuality, right? So you're starting to look around, you're looking at your classmates, you're looking at, right? And it's normal, like, you're starting to become a man. It's the age where you transition from a boy to a man, and you're looking at it, And you're finding these things appealing, you're finding these things attractive, right? Like, I'm not even talking about sex here, I'm just talking about, like, your brain, up until that point, wasn't attracted to boobs. Like, I remember when I was a kid, there was, like, this scene in a movie that I saw where a teenager wanted to see his babysitter's boobs and paid her money for it. And, like, this was an American movie. It wasn't porn, it was just, like, a comedy thing. Like, back then, they actually did comedy, just like they do in anime, but whatever, the 90s, right? So, this kid, like, wants to see the boobs, and I just didn't understand. It's like, what, why does he, like, what, why is he paying, like, I think I was, like, 10 or 11, and I never got that part in the movie. It was a horror movie, by the way, a slasher. But anyway, right, so, then I grew up, and all of a sudden I noticed that, I think I was like 14 or something, I'm looking at my classroom, and for the first time ever, I see, like, the breasts of a colleague of mine, right, and I was like, just, wow, right, like, it's the first thing, like, I'm pretty sure, like, every guy knows, like, the first time you got attracted. And you start exploring, right? Like, you look at television, you read the magazine, at least that's what I did when I grew up. And you notice that you like these things, right? And it's normal, like, you're supposed to, like, you're going through puberty, like, the hormones are raging, you're starting to become a man, you're attracted to these things. Now, imagine everyone in society calls you evil for it, right? Like, if you go on a forum and you talk about, oh, so, I watched this cartoon and I really like it. Oh my god, you porn-obsessed freak. And this is in an age where you have OnlyFans, and this is what I think, right? Because, like, OnlyFans isn't for teenagers, right? Like, they don't target people that are growing up. It's usually for adults. Like, they want to demoralize teenagers to make them think that there's something inherently wrong with them, simply for having, like, just the normal, straight, heteronormative mindset. And because of that, they get targeted, and it's like, no, there's something wrong with you, so that they demoralize them. And then they're a lot more easier to influence. Apparently I was right. So apparently your great aunt, even if they died at age 3, is an ancestor. See, I know my culture, goddammit. In Japanese context, ancestors does mean all people who lived before the generation. It is translated oddly. Yeah, because I don't think many people, many other cultures even have, like, this word, right? Like when we say ancestry, we usually mean, like, people who are part of our ancestry tree. But, like, in Japan, it actually does mean, like, people who came before you. So yes, like, even a baby can be your ancestor. If they were from the previous generation. The noticing begins. Yes, my point is, pretty women are good for a man's mental health. Yeah, again, like, you can admire a pretty character without wanting to fuck it, right? But like, again, like, this whole thing, like, what they're talking about is, like, thought policing. Because, like, the sexualization happens in a man's brain, right? The way you act on it, that's how it reflects on you. So, like, I can walk on a park, and if I see, like, a woman that has a plump ass in front of me, and it catches my attention, right? Like, that's normal, but how I act on it reflects on my character. Like, if I actually go there and spank it, that's a crime. If I start commenting about it, my wife gets upset. If I just keep it to myself, and I look at it, and I go, like, okay, nice, and I just walk around, like, that's normal human behavior, right? But they're trying to convince you that it's pathological. They're trying to convince you that it's actually disgusting, it's abhorrent, like, what you did is beyond the pale. You know, it is what it is. OnlyFans itself really hates that it is a porn site that generally antagonizes their porn creators. They really want it to be Instagram instead. From what I understand, OnlyFans actually pressured Facebook to squash other competition. So I don't know if that's really the case. I genuinely believe, like, people want to make money. I know this is very controversial, but I do think that most people, especially the ones that are in business, they do not care about, like, making political statements and just want to make cash. So in this situation, I don't know what to say, like, what they wanted. Like the reality is they're making money hand over fist. So I don't think they complain. Ancestors are the previous generation. Descendants are the previous generation of blood relations. Yeah, okay. So basically I was right. Yeah, but like the point was that for a culture like Japan, who had like 2 nuclear bombs dropped on them, and this culture like really venerates and cares about the ancestors, having that happen, especially when some of the people that, well, actually most of them that died were civilians, right? They don't really like someone making fun of that event or making light of it. Even Americans don't make light of it, right? Like the Americans will say, yeah, it was needed to end the war and leave it at that. Like they don't go out of their way in order to like rub it in Japan's face, right? Like even the media that the United States does is respectful towards that. Like it doesn't it doesn't try to antagonize Japan over it. But like just to prove that it was such a horrible thing to do, we don't do it today, right? Like, and it wasn't done since, actually, which is a great thing. Not just for the globe, but like nuclear warfare isn't something that anyone wants. So yeah, I think like I don't need to hammer the point any further to explain why what Johnny Somali did is beyond evil. Not necessarily evil, but like to go in another nation to completely disrespect their laws and rules reflects poorly not just on you, but on other people that will come after you, like that will come after you have gone there, not after you, but like that will visit Japan after you visited, and also it'll affect Japanese people who now apparently are going to be unable to do real live streaming because you're an asshole. So you're basically like that kid that sticks chewing gum on the underneath the desk and gets everyone in trouble. Like no one is allowed to have chewing gum now because Billy didn't chew his gum responsibly. I mean, I guess you can say that it's evil. Like Libyan says that no need to dance about it. But it's like a type of evil that's not like necessarily malefic. It's a childish type of evil. Let's put it like this. Alright, like he is not like that streamer from Britain, which kidnapped an old lady's dog, went into someone's house and threatened them, tried to hijack a train. Right? So he's not like what was the name? Mizu. Right, like that is, you know, a different type of evil. This guy was just doing his best in order to antagonize people. And I suppose that these streamers, they're fishing for reactions, right? Like they want people to react. So like they have to up the ante. They have to do something that's more exaggerated in order to get the views. So, for example, you don't need to do what Mizu did in Japan in order to get a reaction. But if you do what Johnny Somali was doing in Japan, if you do it in UK, you would get no reaction, right? So like in UK, it's the streamers have to go the extra mile. And in the United States, they have to go even another mile further. Like, for example, the reason you had like all those people that were spitting in ice creams in various convenience stores, they would take like an ice cream, they would spit in it, and they would put it back. That is because that's how you get the reaction in the United States. If you do what Mizu did in the United States, you probably get shot, which is why no one does it. Like, unironically, if you try to, like, go into a red state and you try to steal someone's dog, or heaven forbid, you think it's okay to just violate someone's property? Like you're going to someone's house, you know, to make a prank video, like, trying to show that, Jesus, I don't even want to know what would happen. I mean, American Outlier, if someone did that, like if some streamer wanted to prank you and got into your house just to film a video, like how would you react? Probably not in a very favorable way towards the streamer. So yeah, basically, in the United States, you need to have like a different. So I guess like every culture like has various laws and customs which the streamer has to go through in order to. We actually used to have a name for it, honestly. I don't know why we don't use it anymore, but it used to be attention hoarding, right? Like, this is what they do. I think it's like since second grade feminism, the word attention hoarding has been banned and considered negative. because it was like viewed as demeaning towards women. But like, no, you don't have to be a woman to attention whore. Like what the word means is that you are demeaning yourself, right? You're ruining your character. You are doing something that's incredibly disrespectful towards you in order to, I suppose, gain attention, right? So you're doing something incredibly socially inadequate, something that your mother would strongly disapprove of, just so that you can get a little bit of attention. And there used to be stigma against it. But again, like with the removal of the word, you can see how easy it is to control language. Like, because we can't say that people are attention whoring. Now you do have legit attention whores that are doing their best in order to antagonize people and get themselves arrested in Japan. Most of the time, like, ironically, most of the time the word attention whoring was used to men. Like, I've rarely seen this term being used to a woman, right? Because I think, like, women, they do it with finesse. They still, like when they want to get attention, they can do it without being socially awkward or socially inept or do something illegal, right? So it was, like, overwhelmingly men that would do this. But again, like, we removed the word from the lexicon. We can't shame people for doing it anymore. Stealing someone's dog in a red state, yeah. Do you know, I actually looked it up, and there was, like, this controversy of, like, some right-wingers, like, where they were talking about an event where a man was trying to steal a woman's dog. And the question was, like, is it, like, self-defense? Like, are you allowed to shoot that person? And the answer is no. Even if someone, like, punches your dog, you're not allowed to. Like, I don't think, like, there's any state that allows that to happen. However, what I was told by a lawyer is that in that situation, like, if someone is attacking your dog, what you can do legally is to position yourself between you and the dog, right? So sorry, you're positioning yourself between that person and the dog. And at that point, if the person lays hands on you or touches you or is aggressive towards you in any way, in many legislations, then you're allowed to defend yourself. So like, basically, that is the answer. What's bad about it is that this guy is ruining my dating pool because now he is cementing views about black people, so women in the East might second guess now. I don't think that's the case. See, how should I say this? I happen to know a lot of racist people, right? And like, racist people, unlike leftists who are anti-racist, racist people stereotype as well. But what racist people do is that when a person challenges their stereotype, they don't reinforce it. So basically, let's say you have a person that's racist towards you. The moment you display mannerisms and you present yourself in a way that it's kind of like Martin Luther King said, you know, that they're going to judge you based on your character. So like, if you present yourself in a certain way and you conduct yourself with dignity, it's very difficult to find a person that will legitimately still have a grievance against you. That's literally my take. Like, oh, my camera died, right? Because it ran out of battery. It's fine. We're getting close to being over. But like, like, if you're going into a place where there's racist people, usually if you conduct yourself with dignity and you respect others the same way you want to be respected, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Here in Missouri, the law used to allow deadly force for trespass, which there was a reasonable belief that you were under any harm, were to harm any living being. Unfortunately, they changed the law. Yeah, so like, the thing with trespassing, and I'll end it here. We had this conversation in Romania in law school, and I was like, look, if I'm in my house and I hear someone downstairs and I wake up in the middle of the fucking night with my wife sleeping next to me, do you honestly believe that A, I have the time to dial the cops and wait for them to appear if the guy is literally in my house? Or that B, I can have like a normal conversation with the guy and ask him, why are you in my house? Do you plan to hurt me or do you just want to steal shit? When are you going to leave? Are you going to hurt my wife? You know, like, that is like the most dumbest shit ever. No, if someone breaks into your house, like literally violates your property, especially if it's in the middle of the night, I think any type of self-defense should be legally allowed. I do not believe that there is a single circumstance where you can make the argument that the person wasn't afraid for their life. And unfortunately, there are places in the world, like the UK, certain states in the United States, where they're basically saying, no, like, even in that case, you gotta just, get rid of the threat without using lethal force. And I'm thinking, like, yeah, but, like, dude, someone is afraid for their lives. Do you really expect them to feel rational about it? Not to mention they're afraid for the lives of themselves and their potential family that is there. Now, of course, you have the question, like, what if you invited them in? That is a good question. And this is, like, what many people who are against this will say. It's like, yeah, but, like, isn't this, like, a way that you can use to kill a guest? And the answer is, like, that's why police officers have detectives, right? To detect whether or not he was a guest. They can do this from various methods. Number one, did he broke in when he entered? Right? Like most people that go into someone's house trespassing, they break in. Number two, did he actually know the family? I mean, if he was like a Uber delivery guy and he got in the house, then it's probably likely that, and there's no breaking and entry, then you can make the argument that, well, maybe the guy was, invited in and then they got into an argument and he got shot or whatever. But, like, that's for a judge and jury to decide because the case is already, like, looking a little bit iffy. It's like, all right, well, he had a legitimate reason to be there, right? So he's not just, like, someone breaking in into the middle of the night. And then they can ask the neighbors, like, they can gather evidence. That there are ways we can figure shit out of what possibly happened after an event took place, right? Like it's not like if something happened, we can't figure it out. Like, if you see a dead deer in the woods and the wolf has blood on its muzzle, you're not going to say, well, can we possibly know that it is that deer? It's like, well, no, but we can accurately guess, right? So, break a window and make sure it's a stranger. Yeah, well, break a window from the outside, I guess. But, yeah, like usually the times when it's self-defense, you kind of know. Not to mention, like, here in my country, you would also get, like, witnesses that would describe your personality. And like, they would probably be like, yeah, I mean, this guy, my neighbor, he's usually, like, a calm individual. He talks nice. Like, he got no signs of aggression. And we did hear commotion in the middle of the night. Like, it kind of reflects, right? Like, on the opposite end, well, yeah, but, like, this guy is a gang dealer. He's a drug dealer, and, yeah, he owed money to this guy that just happened to, right? Like, in that case, you get a lawsuit. A trial. And it's going to be like, well, okay, well, let's see what really happened. Let's gather evidence and stuff. What if he is naked and has a hammer? Then it's national news. Anyway, I need to go to the Archcast now. Thank you guys so much for watching it, and I really appreciate the super chats. Let me see if I missed any of them. No, I don't think I did. So, thank you all for the donations, and I will see you tomorrow. And, I will also see you today if you go on the Archcast. And by the way, Holtzinator, thank you for watching my stream again. I actually missed you. Take care.